Hi spinning friends, welcome to another Ask Spinning Sara video, and today should be a quick one. We didn't have a ton of questions this time, so we'll try to keep it nice and short and sweet. All right, so first up we have DM Brown, who says, love the Q&A videos. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Happy Outside says, thanks for talking about the twist of yarn when plying on a Turkish spindle. I was wondering about that. Always happy to answer questions. Elizabeth says, thank you so much for addressing my question on a neat cop. And I love the term you use, stable, because I was spinning recently and the bottom was falling out of it, if you can understand, which I definitely do. She says she ended up using a hair tie to hold it all up while she was trying to catch the falling singles, and it was such a mess. So she was looking forward to my video just on making a stable cop. So if you haven't already, go check out the video on how to build a stable cop. It should help explain how to not have a cop that blows up or it implodes or explodes. Either one, not good news for a cop. So go check that out. She's doing a breed study and attempting to learn all the things. It is so much work to learn all the things, but I'm glad you're on a breed study. You'll have to definitely let us know how that's going in the comments. Let's see. Tricothon thanked for the Q&A, and I am very excited about my wheel. There will be a members only video coming out in the next week or so, showing some finishing of that wheel. It is currently it's on its second coat of tongue oil, and I have to do one more sanding and one more recoat, and then it has to sit for a month, and then I can spin on it. So I am very excited about it. You were wondering if I could show you hand spun skeins or things knitted now and then and discuss the fiber, what tool I spun it on, and things about that. I could definitely do that. Just y'all let me know in the comments if you would like a separate video, maybe once a month, like a roundup kind of video, like what I've been knitting, what I've been spinning, show you what I've finished, compare things. If that sounds like a good idea, let me know. I do not currently sell my hand spun, but I have thought about it. So that might happen in the future. I'm not sure. And your question was, what are my top 5 fiber dyers or suppliers nowadays? Top five is hard. I just signed up for the Greenwood Fiber Works Seasons subscription box, and that first box has come in. I can do a box or a video going over that. If you guys want to see it, leave me a comment and let me know if you want to see unboxings for fiber clubs, because I can definitely do that. But her fiber is extraordinarily soft. And I did read that one thing that Greenwood Fiber Works does with their braids is after they dye them, they actually slightly pre-draft all of them. So they're just that much easier to work with straight out of the box. So I'm really intrigued on what that's going to look like as I actually spin it. So I will have to let you know how that goes. As far as companies that I have used their fiber and enjoy their fiber and know that I enjoy their fiber, not just like maybe I think I'm going to. Three Waters Farm has excellent dyed fibers. Marianne is really good people. Love her so much. She also has a fiber club that you could subscribe to. This is not an affiliate or anything like that. So you can always look up Three Waters Farm. They have an Etsy shop and they have a dedicated web shop. You can look at either of those shops to find excellent fibers. I will have links for all of these shops in the description. I also really like Nest Fiber. Jen has some amazing colorways. I was a part of her fiber club for a very, very long time, and she has beautiful stuff. I prefer her superwash to most any other superwash that I've ever experienced. I don't know that I'm the hugest fan of her non-superwash fibers, but her superwash fibers are superb. Let's see. Alonsi Fiber Arts has amazing braids of fiber. I would definitely recommend checking her out. Just her colorways are these amazingly long and perfectly blended gradients, and it is just absolutely fantastic colors. I've never had a single problem with any of her fibers bleeding excessively or anything like that. Naturally, I'm going to tell you Inglenook Fibers. The lovely ladies at Inglenook Fibers do absolutely amazing things with color. Their braids are hefty braids. They generally run between 5 and 6 ounces. I think, generally speaking, their prices are very, very good for their braids. They do also a lot of bats and stickle bats. Those are harder to get your hands on. You really have to be a good shop stalker in order to get those, and use their preview time to really look at the stuff that's coming to see whether you want to go for one thing specifically. They're just really, really awesome. And absolutely beautiful stuff. Wound Up Fiber Arts. She has a shop on Big Cartel. I follow her on Instagram, and she does her updates on the first, it says on the first of the month. So I would definitely recommend checking out her stuff. She generally has a variety of different bases that she dyes on, and I have spun her fibers and they have been very, very good. I have not had a single braid from her that has been questionable or anything like that. I'm looking back through the stuff that I've bought to see if I'm forgetting anybody. Also, if her colors are your thing, Into the World, WHIRLED. Again, links are down in the description. Also, very, very good fiber if her colors are your thing. So yes, those would be my fiber suppliers or dyers that I think are very good right now. Jean B says, Dear Sarah, I've been trying to get better at long draw and have thus been carding my rollags on my hand cards, and I'm spinning them on support spindles. Somehow, I always end up with single drafting not evenly enough, leading to the thinnest part gathering all the twist and snapping. Is this an issue with my rollags, or does my spinning technique need refining? I would say it's a problem with your rollags. If it's not drafting evenly enough, I would probably recommend giving it a some attenuation. So take your roll lag that you've just made, and while you're carding, try to keep your fiber really evenly loaded on your card. But aside from that, after you roll it up, you can always pre-draft it a little bit. So if it starts off this long, try to make it twice as long by just slightly drafting as you go down the fiber supply, and see if that doesn't help. It could be that it's drafting thinner in spots because the fiber right there is tighter, and that is not allowing as much twist to enter the fiber supply. Also, try to put less fiber on your cards. If you go back and watch my faux lag video, that video specifically talks about how when I make my faux lags, I pre-draft the braid and make it very, very thin and very, very fine, and then roll up like twice on the dowel and then tear it off. Because if you have a crazy amount of fiber that you're trying to draft with, especially with a roll lag or a faux lag or a hand carded roll lag, those tend to not draft as smoothly as you want them to. So in this situation, as with most, less is more. So less fiber on your cards, less fiber in each roll lag. See if you can make them as light and airy as possible. So when you actually roll them off of your cards, they shouldn't be very dense. You should be able to squish them pretty easily. And then make sure when you're drafting that you're keeping your distance of draft, so how far you're drafting each time, consistent with the speed of your draft. So if let's just, for argument's sake, say you spin like me and you spin the spindle and you stop it and then you draft against that. Well, similar to spinning on a wheel, if you go too fast or too slow, it's going to change the thickness of your single. So I generally tell people when you are spinning supported, long draw, you want to draft like just past the point where your single is at pull apart stage. So if you did a tug test and it wants to just slightly separate, that is where you want to be to give your spindle an additional 1 or 2 second flick and then roll it all on and start over again. If you are a continuous spinner, which I am not, because I find my yarns are much more uneven when I try to continuous spin. So I spin the way I spin because I like my yarns consistent and not lumpy and bumpy. And when I continuous spin, I get lumpy, bumpy yards. If you are a continuous spinner, this is where your consistent drafting distance matters. So you need to be consistent with your flick and then how much finger dancing you end up doing. Because if you're pinching off your fiber as your drafting point, too much, you can create a thin spot, or too little, you can create a thin spot. It's kind of mind-boggling, but you have to practice enough to get the dance down enough to be able to make a more consistent yarn. I asked a question on my community tab, asking what you guys wanted to see next. The one thing that was posted on there that I really wanted to address in this video more than its own separate video, because I feel like it doesn't really need its own separate video. And that is from Erica Watson 352. And She says, thank you so much for your videos. They have been a tremendous resource for me in my spinning. Thank you. That's very kind. I would love to see something about supported versus unsupported long draw. And this is going to be a little bit of a rant, I think. There really isn't a difference between supported. You could, in theory, spin a yarn supported long draw and unsupported long draw. And I'm assuming that we're talking about via a wheel, because spindle long draw is always supported long draw. There's no difference. The difference at a wheel between supported versus unsupported long draw is not your skill, is not anything to do with you. Really what it is to do with is how well is your wheel set up for you. If you go back and watch my long draw video, I have a demo video and I have an actual teaching video on long draw. If you go back and watch that video, I say, particularly when you're spinning with a wheel, the wheel has to be set up correctly for you, which means everybody has different needs. Everybody has different levels of what works and what doesn't work for them. And long draw is no exception to that. Where somebody might like really high tension on their bobbin, somebody like me wants very low tension on their bobbin. I said it quite a few times in that video that particularly with long draw and unsupported long draw, getting your wheel set up is a Goldilocks situation where you have to have it set up just right for you. You want to be able to pull on your single away from your orifice and have enough tension on your bobbin so it doesn't pull back out of the orifice. But you also want an insignificant enough tension that it does not auto draft your yarn for you. Okay, so too much tension equals you go to pull and it's going to pull, and then you are going to break your yarn because you have two places pulling too much. If you have too little tension on your bobbin, you're going to go to draft and you are just going to pull it back out of your orifice. So this is where the Goldilocks comes in. You have to have it just enough so you can pull against it and not pull it out of your orifice, and you can pull against it, but it's not forcefully pulling against you to draft your fiber for you. Now, the other part of the long draw equation is your fiber prep. If your fiber prep isn't absolutely chef's kiss perfect, you're going to support that long draw at some point. So you're going to have to pinch to draft because there's a spot that isn't drafting as smoothly or as silky as the rest of your fiber supply. So your fiber supply has to be exactly perfect for continuous unsupported long draw, where you're literally just sitting here with one hand and drawing the whole time, and that's it. And your wheel has to be set up just right to be able to unsupported long draw the entire time. It takes a lot of tinkering with your wheel and your fiber supply to get to that point. Most often you will find that freshly made, hand carded fleece is going to spin long draw like a dream. That is going to be your best bet for unsupported long draw. Now, my question to you guys, because I know that I don't know where all this insanity is coming from. Do you feel like supported long draw is not as good as unsupported long draw. And the reason I have a hard time with that type of thought is because the very continuous support spinners who spin continuous long draw, that is a supported long draw. You are using fingers to support, to provide a drafting point to be able to long draw from there. That is a supported long draw. Similarly, I flick my spindle and stop it and draft off of the tip of my spindle. I'm not actually holding the yarn at all. I'm holding the spindle tip and drafting off of the spindle tip. Because I am not touching that yarn while it is being made, you could argue that that is an unsupported long draw because I'm literally not supporting that single while I'm long drawing from it. So is my yarn that I make better than somebody who spins continuous because I'm not supporting it, but you are? I think supported versus unsupported long draw is kind of like my house is bigger than yours, or my car is better than yours, or something along those lines. Like it seems like an incredibly petty distinction to be making. So my question is, do you feel like there needs to be a distinction? Because the mechanics are essentially the same. Either you're trapdooring your twist or you're not, if you're sitting at a wheel. Or are you pinching your fiber and drafting against it? Your singles, are you pinching your singles and drafting against it? Or are you just drafting against the tip of your spindle and not pinching your singles at all? I think it would be very interesting to get a microscope and look at a supported long draw yarn and an unsupported long draw yarn and see if there's actually any difference in those yarns. I'm willing to bet there's not. The mechanics are the same. The draft is the same. If the draft was the same and the fiber was the same, and the only difference, like let's just say we're sitting at a wheel, the only difference was whether I was using tensioning fingers or blocking off my twist fingers while I draft, I really don't think that there's going to be, even on a microscopic level, anything different about those two yarns. I really don't. So I'm not going to do a separate video on supported versus unsupported because I think it's a non-issue. I really think it is a nonsensical shouting match of who can do it better. And I think whatever you're comfortable spinning, however you're comfortable spinning, that is how your spinning should be done. Steeps and Stitches, this is our last question, guys. Steeps and Stitches asked long draw on a drop spindle. Any tips? If you go back and watch my long draw video, I talk about spinning from a drop spindle, long draw. And basically the only thing that you need to do is, just like we've been saying with supported versus unsupported, you need to have a point of drafting, whether that is the orifice of your wheel or it is the tip of your spindle, it's the fingers that you pinch with. Well, in the case of a drop spindle, it is the fingers that you pinch with. And what I do, sorry, I did not mean to hit that. What I do is I take my singles and I roll them in my finger like this to add the twist that I allow to the spindle spinning, and I go like this with my singles to allow the twist into my fiber supply that I then pull backwards to draft and then wind everything onto the spindle shaft. It's just a little strumming motion. And I imagine if you were doing this with a left hand, it breaks my brain because I don't spin that way, but I think you would want to twist like this. So your hand would need to be rotated and you would need to twist the opposite direction of me going backwards on this hand. You would need to go forwards on this hand to introduce the twist in the correct direction, assuming you're spinning your singles clockwise. So yeah, you just strum your single and that strumming provides a resistance point for you to draft from, and it introduces twist into your fiber supply, which is part number 1 of a woolen spun single. So introducing twist with your fingers also provide a drafting point for you to draft across. And that is the only tip that I have for spinning on a drop spindle long draw, because it's really not, it's not very hard. If you are drafting and you're drafting forward, but you're twisting slightly as you draft to lock the twist into the section that you've already made, it's only a slight deviation from this to continuously doing this and pulling backwards. I hope that helps. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any additional questions, please, please, please leave them in the comment section below. I will do another episode of Ask Spinning Sara in 2 weeks. And at that point, I would answer those questions to get back to you guys on whatever you are interested in learning about. I did want to thank my channel members right here. Thank you guys so much for being channel members. You are awesome, and I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already, please do like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already. If you have, please consider joining our family of channel members. And until next time, guys, happy spinning.